Hello again and welcome back to another Mordian Glory battle report. Now today guys, I've got something a little bit different for you. This is going to be a almost absolute beginner's battle report. You see, with a lot of people having to spend a lot more time in the home these days, many more people are getting into 40k and tabletop games. But one of the things that I found in 9th edition is that it's a little bit more complicated and a little harder to get into. So what I thought would be a good idea is for me to do what is essentially a very stripped down version of a Warhammer 40k battle, but using things that are pretty easy for people to get their hands on, and to show you that if you're thinking about getting into 40k, you don't need to spend a fortune to actually set up what can be quite a cool looking battlefield, because I'm sure many of us have seen some of the very impressive battles on other people's battle reports that are, whilst look really impressive, in some ways can be a bit intimidating. I mean, you don't have to start off with this huge 6x4 battle, sort of battle mat and loads of custom terrain or painted MDF terrain or anything like that. Sometimes you just want to see if you're interested in something and you don't necessarily want to break the bank doing that. So what I've put together today, guys, is both how to put together a simple 40k battlefield, but also how to play a quick and easy game of 40k without getting bogged down in some of the complications of 9th edition. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to take you through how I've put this battlefield together, what's in the armies, and then we're going to go do a bit. It's going to be a bit more live than my usual battle reports. It's not going to be quite as much of a end of turn summary. I'm actually going to show you what happens in each phase, and we're going to play the game through for 5 turns. So without further ado, let's take a look at this battlefield. So first things first, I want to tell you how I put this battle report together, this battlefield together, and it was actually pretty simple. Now, before we go into it, I just want to say a big thank you to my patrons. It was through the Patreon money that this was funded, getting the new terrain, the new battle mat and all that. And I just really want to say a big thank you to them, because without my patrons, I wouldn't be able to do all this cool stuff and try out these new videos and just help the channel grow to where it is. So massive thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You guys are all awesome. So let's go through what I've got. Now the battle mat, nice and simple. This is a Games Workshop battlefield, and I have the box for you guys here. It comes with 2 cardboard battle mats. I've put them together now, and if you pull them apart you can see, there you go, 2 of them put together. They fold down into the into that sort of cardboard sleeve that you saw, and they're pretty good. They are double-sided, so you've got a grey side, and then on the other side you have a what looks like a sort of Deserts of Mars, like quite an orangey sandy colour. So you've got 2 battlefields in one package, and that costs you from Games Workshop £30. Now I actually got mine through a third-party retailer. I got it through Goblin Gaming. Not associated or affiliated with them in any way, guys. I've used them a couple of times and they've been quite good. And I got 15% off that, so it was less. It was about £25. And yeah, it is really good. The only thing I would say downside with it is, guys, it is cardboard. It is printed on cardboard, so it's probably not as durable as a proper neoprene battle mat, but it is perfectly adequate for getting yourself into a game of 40k again without having to spend a huge amount on a battle mat. Some of these ones I've got here, these neoprene ones, they're very expensive. You're looking at sort of £50–60. And yeah, you may not want to spend that much if you're just trying 40k or you're just getting into it. This cardboard bad boy is more than enough for your first few games of 40k, and to be honest, if you take care of it, there's no reason why you couldn't use it for many, if not all of your games of 40k. And like I said, it's a 2-in-1. It's 2 battlefields in one. So it is very affordable, and gives you lots of options and lets you try lots of different things when you're getting into 40k or other battle systems as well. Now the other thing I want to mention that I'm very excited about is this new terrain that I've got here. This is actually cardboard terrain. Okay, it's really cool, really lightweight stuff, and it's all modular, and it all just pops out. It's really good, and it is extremely affordable if you're getting into 40k or again any sort of sci-fi battlefield. It's actually not from Games Workshop. This is by a company called battlesystems.co.uk, and it is really, really impressive stuff, guys. If any of you are sort of long beards getting back into the game after a long hiatus, if you remember the old cardboard Necromunda terrain, this is very similar to that, but obviously it's, you know, the old Necromunda terrain was pretty limited. This is not limited at all. The guy's basically taken the Necromunda cardboard terrain idea, and run with it and created some really, really awesome battlefields. Highly impressive stuff. I've put this together, I wouldn't say completely incorrectly, but not the way they tell you to do it on the box. But the point is, guys, is that it's really modular, and I can actually use the same terrain to create many different battlefields because it all literally just slots together and clips together. It's really good. Almost no gluing needed whatsoever. There's actually two sets I've got here. I've got the Outlands Delta Garrison, which is these buildings here, and then I also got myself, it's called a particle transporter or particle accelerator, really cool little thing in the center here, and it all comes pre-painted. Now that's the big thing, and this is the last thing I want to say about terrain, because I'm sure many of you want to see some dice being rolled and some battles taking place. It's all pre-painted and it's all very affordable. So it's very, again, if you're thinking of dipping your toe into 40k, but you don't necessarily want to go down there and buy just you know, all the Warhammer Games Workshop terrain that can cost you £30 for one building, and then you've got to build it, then you've got to paint it. So a lot of time investment and potential of money investment when you take the paint stuff into account for a game you may end up not wanting to commit to for, you know, more than a little bit. This terrain that you see here, in total, the Delta Garrison cost me about £25, and the Particle Accelerator cost me about a £5. So in total it was about £30. So if you wanted to put this battlefield together, you wouldn't need to buy a big expensive battle mat. You wouldn't need to buy and paint and build loads of games with terrain. You could put the whole thing together for about £50 to £60, which is, as far as wargaming goes, pretty cost effective, especially for Warhammer 40k. All the crates came with it, the consoles, all that stuff came from those sets. And again, it's pre-painted, so you literally slot it together. I did this last night. Took me maybe an hour or two to put it all together and to have a ready-to-go battlefield. So that's the terrain. Simple enough. That's the board. Simple enough. Now let's take a look at the armies and the mission that we're going to be playing today. So there are lots of different ways you can play Warhammer 40k. And there's actually lots of different books, and many of those books have got different scenarios in. But if you're getting into it for the first time, I highly recommend all you need is your big core rulebook. That has loads of missions in. As long as 9th edition's been out, I haven't actually played through all the missions that are in here yet. There are competitive books, there are narrative books, there's loads of different things you can get. But to be honest, if you're just getting started out, just the core rulebook will be absolutely fine. You don't need to worry about anything else. So we'll go to the first mission that I've picked out here. And the first one that I recommend that everybody plays, nice simple one, is on page 274. It's an open play mission, which means it's not overly complicated. It's nice and easy just for getting into the game. And we're going to do the first one called Annihilation. Really simple, guys. Basically, the more stuff that you kill, the more points that you will get. Really easy. We'll go through the scoring at the end so you can understand exactly how we've totted up who's won and who's lost. But long story short, guys, the more stuff you kill, the more points you get. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. Nice and easy. Even tells you how to do the deployment, so this can be on any sized battlefield whatsoever. The only thing that you need to do is make sure there's a 10-inch exclusion zone in the middle, and one person deploys in the left-hand corner and one person deploys in the upper right-hand corner. We are doing a small game today. We're doing a 25 power level game. First time I've done power level. I've actually tried to match up the power level with the points, because there are two ways you can get into 40k. You can go for power level, which is much easier to throw a list together, or you can do a points game, which is a bit more in-depth. And so what I've done here is I've tried to make sure that both the power level and the points match up to keep it balanced on both ends. So this is a 500 point game for those of you that prefer the point system, and it is a 25 power level game for those of you that prefer the power level system. We're covering all bases here today. Now the size of the board that we have gone for is again, it's recommended in here. It tells you exactly how to build your battlefield. That is on page 272 and 273 of the main rulebook. And we are going with the combat patrol / incursion size battlefield, which is 44 by 30. And guess what? These battle mats that you buy from Games Workshop, they are that size. They fit. You buy one pack, you put them together, and you have a 44 by 30 battlefield. Nice and easy. Again, don't need to think about it too much. Slot them both together. You know you're playing on the right battlefield. Easy peasy. So that is the mission. That is how we've put the battlefield together. Last but certainly not least, we'll go through the armies for these two forces. So we'll go through this Necron army first. Now, starting off on the Necron player's right flank, we have a squad of 10 warriors. Each of these guys has just got a Gauze Flayer. Nice and simple. Moving up to this commanding position. Of course, the Necron Lord has to be in the commanding position. We have the Necron Lord, not an Overlord, just a simple Lord for today. He has a War Scythe, and he has 5 Immortals with him. They are your sort of heavy infantry, and each one of them has got a Gauze Flayer. Now, we're keeping it all very simple. Gauze on these chaps, Gauze on these guys, Gauze for days, because they all have sort of similar profiles and similar effects, and it makes it a little easier to keep a track of what the heck's going on. No too special rules. Tesla carbines are probably better, but let's be honest, they're a bit wacky, and if this is your first game in 40k, you just want to keep things simple. We then have some close combat potential here, guys. We've got a unit of 3 Wraiths and a unit of 6 Scarabs. The Wraiths are they're a pretty cool unit. They're your sort of heavy combat infantry, very good at tying things down, very durable, quite killy. And the Scarabs are super fast, and whilst not very powerful, they are very good at tying enemy units up and bogging them down, and they're very, very quick. So that is the Necron army. Moving over to the forces of the Space Marines, we have a unit of 5 Terminators. We're going big today, guys. 5 Terminators built with a classic loadout, Sergeant with a Stormbolt and a Power Sword, and another Terminator with an Assault Cannon, and then 3 guys with Stormbolters and Power Fists. They are bodyguarding the captain that we have today, and he has a Power Sword and a Storm Shield. And then we have 2 squads of Tactical Marines, one with a Plasma Gun, Sergeant with a Bolt Pistol and Chainsword, one with a Heavy Bolter, Sergeant with a Bolter. So there you go, that guy there with the head sticking out, he is Sergeant for that squad, and the guy with the Bolt Pistol and Chainsword, he is the Sergeant for that squad, the squad leaders. Now, just why have we put these 2 armies together the way we have? They feature a nice collection of units for the power level that we're playing at, but they're also units that aren't too complicated and are pretty easy for you as a new player starting out. Most of these units you can get from one start collecting box or another, but we haven't just decided to put 2 start collecting boxes against each other because we wanted to keep it a little balanced. And so what we've done is we've basically taken some units from some start collecting sets and then added in a couple of other boxes on either side. So the Terminators and the Captain for the Space Marines, and then the Immortals and the Wraiths for the Necrons. So there we go. Those are the 2 forces that we're putting against each other. Nice and balanced points and power level. Let's go through some of the ways we're going to be playing this game next. So last thing to say before we get into this battlefield is how we're going to play this game today. So 9th edition is a complicated beast. It's a little different to 8th edition, which was come one, come all, let's all just have a bit of a free-for-all. 9th edition, especially some of the newer codexes like Necrons and Space Marines, there are lots and lots of special rules that it's very easy to get wrong and to not really understand. So for this battle, for this first battle in the series that we're going to be doing, we're going to be playing with almost no special rules whatsoever. It's just going to be essentially what is on the data sheets for each unit. So that means the only special rule that we are going to be playing with is that the Necrons will obviously have reanimation protocol, The reason we've added that in is because it's so fundamental and cool to how they play. And the Space Marines will have Shock Assault and Bolter Discipline, because again, those are very important for how the Space Marines play. So those are the only special rules that we're playing with. We won't be having any Assault Doctrines or Chapter Tactics or Command Protocols or Dynasties or anything like that. We're going to keep it nice and simple. We're just going to play with the standard rules that it doesn't matter what chapter you are or what turn you're in, which can all be a bit complicated to keep trying to keep track of what turn you're in, lets you get what buff. We're not going with any of that silliness. We are doing the simple special rules. The Necrons like to get back up, and the Marines like to fight hard. That's how these two armies play. So what we're going to do is, hopefully, if this is nice and popular, we'll do another battle report where maybe mix the armies up slightly. But in the second battle report, we'll add in another set of special rules. So that in that point, we'll add in chapter tactics and dynasties, and then if that one's popular, we'll probably do a third one where, right, this is how you play when you've got all your special rules going off at once. Okay, because I think it's important when you're learning 40k to not get bogged down and to be worried, am I doing everything exactly right? It's just important to get a feel for how the game is playing, and you only want to be able to remember a couple of rules that give you a bit more depth. So that is it. Without further ado, we are going to get on with this battle now. So once you have done all the deployment and the battlefield and the mission, it is time to decide who goes first. And the easiest way of doing that is rolling off. That means both players will roll a dice, and whoever rolls the highest will have the first turn. So I will have the white dice and Amy is going to have the green dice. Let's see what happens. I've rolled a 5, that's pretty good. And Amy has rolled a 3, which means the Space Marines will be going first. So the first thing that you do is the movement phase. This is where each one of your squads gets an opportunity to move up the battlefield. Every unit can move a different amount. For the Space Marines, the Terminators can move 5 inches and everyone else can move 6 inches. So what we're going to do is you get your tape measure and we're going to move our Terminators forward. Okay, I'm not going to mess around here. Terminators are the Emperor's finest. We will come forward and smite the enemies of the Emperor. Very important that you get into the narrative side of things when you're playing 40k. Keep it nice and cool. This is going to be, well, let's make a name up for this battlefield. The Battle of Delta Garrison 5. There you go. And the Imperium has clearly been messing with some technology that it shouldn't have been messing with. We've been messing with some teleportarium stuff, and the Necrons have decided to come along and put a stop to whatever we're doing. They don't like it. So that's a nice, quick, easy story. So I'm going to move my second squad of Marines down here. I'm going to break from cover, which could be a bit of a risk against the Necrons. I've got very good guns, but we want to get as much damage on the enemy as possible, as quickly as possible. And then we'll move our fire support squad up as well, and that will be pretty much our movement phase. Now, if either side had any psychers, we would do the psychic phase next. But we don't, so we're going to move straight on to the shooting phase. So each of your squads then gets a chance to shoot at the enemy. Obviously every squad's got a mixture of weapons, but we'll go through each one at a time. And quite simply, how I like to work through my shooting phase is starting from one side and just moving across the board, going through each unit systematically. So the first unit that we're going to do is the Terminators. Let's start off strong. And we are going to fire all of their weapons here. It's a bit of a tricky one because obviously there's lots of different Necron units here, but I feel like I'm going to put all of my firepower into these Necron Warriors here. Let's see how many of them we can kill. So Terminators get 4 shots each on their Storm Bolters, and they have a 24-inch range, so we're going to measure the range. Yep, handily in range, no issues there. And the Assault Cannon gets 6 shots, but because it's a heavy weapon and I've moved with it, it's -1. So the regular Storm Bolters will be hitting on 3s, and the Assault Cannon will be hitting on 4s. Now, because they've got slightly different profiles, I'm going to do the 2 different types of weapons separately. So I'm going to do my Storm Bolters first. So I've got 4 of them, 4 shots each. So that comes to 16 shots And I'm going to shoot at these Necron Warriors, and I'm going to be hitting on 3. So I'm going to roll in my dice box. And then what I always like to do, bit of game etiquette here for you guys, is I take the misses out. Because that way my opponent can see that I've not, tried to pick up any extra hits or anything, or even not in a horrible way, just by accident. So there we go. Take a look. There are all my hits, and then we're going to roll to wound. So I've hit the enemy a number of times. Now I'm going to try and see if my bullets actually do anything. So my weapons are strength 4, and the Necrons are toughness 4. So it is 4s to wound, equal strength and toughness. So roll those dice, and again, take out my misses. Take out my misses for a nice seafood dinner. And then that is how many wounds I have left. So I have done 6 wounds to the Necron. So now what we're going to ask the Necron player to do is to roll their saves. So the Necron player has 6 saves to make, and Necron Warriors have a 4+ save value, and the Stormbolters have no AP with no armor penetration, which means it is simply a 4+ save for those Necron Warriors to survive. So do you want to roll those dice in the box, Amy? And then you want to take out anything that is a 1, 2, or 3. There you go. So the Necrons passed 2 saves, but they failed 4, which means that 4 of these Necron Warriors have been knocked down. And we can remove them for now, but some of them may end up coming back. Now we're going to do the Stormbolter live here. It might be a bit funny because I'm doing it left-handed. Let's give it a go. So it's got, not Stormbolter, Assault Cannon, sorry. So the Assault Cannon model there at the front, he's also shooting into the Warriors, and he needs 4s to hit because that weapon is heavy, and if you move with a heavy weapon and your infantry, it is -1 to your dice roll, which means you go from a 3+ to hit to a 4+ to hit. So let's see what's happened there. So that did make a difference. So instead of hitting 4 times, I have only hit 3 times. But the Assault Cannon is a big old beastie gun, so it's a little stronger than the Stormbolters, which means at the end of the day, it will only be 3s for me to wound now. And I failed with one of those. Now the Necrons now get a chance to save those 2 wounds. So Amy, do you want to pick up 2 dice and roll them for me? But it's armor penetration -1, which means you're only going to have a 5+ save now. Still very good. You make 1, you fail 1, which means half of those Necrons have been knocked down. So now that the Terminators have finished their shooting, we're going to do the Necron Reanimation protocols. Now what this basically means, guys, is when the Necrons have been shot at by a unit, when that unit has finished all its attacks against the Necron unit, they get a chance to, any of the models that died get a chance to get back up. They self-repair, little robots come out and they get back up. So Necron Warriors will be getting back up from the dead on a 5+. So do you want to, that means on a 5 or a 6 they're going to get back up. You roll a dice for each model in the unit. 5 dead Necron Warriors equals 5 dice, and let's roll them and let's see what Amy gets. So you get a 5, which means that a single Necron Warrior is going to get back up and join that unit. So that's very interesting. Let's see what the rest of the Space Marine Firepower can do. So that is how you do your movement, your shooting phase, guys. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to make you watch every single live dice roll. I'm going to resolve the rest of my army shooting, and then we're going to move on to the remaining turns, and probably onto the Necron Turn at that point. So guys, actually what I am going to do, I am going to show you the live dice roll, because I realised I've actually made a mistake early on. It just goes to show that even the more experienced players can make mistakes, especially when you're playing 40k. So what I should have been doing, guys, is thanks to my captain, I should have been re-rolling any 1s on the dice rolls when I was rolling to hit. That's one of the special abilities that the captain has. Now I didn't do that with my Terminators. Now again, bit of gamer etiquette here. We did think about going back and re-rolling it, but to be honest, best thing to do is if you make a mistake, you just wear it and then you just learn from that mistake. So I'm not going to redo my shooting on my Terminators or anything like that. I missed out on that buff, that's my fault. I'm going to remember it going forward. And that's the best way of doing this. If you make a mistake, learn from it. So we're going to do this squad first, and we're going to shoot them into the Wraiths. Now they have, again, a 24-inch range. So we measure out, yeah, everything that, apart from the pistol, which has got a 12-inch range, so that won't be in range. No, nowhere near. So the sergeant won't be able to shoot, but I'll have 3 bolt guns and I'll have a plasma gun. So I'll do my 3 bolt guns first. Now these hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. No rerolls, and I hit with all of them, but they are going to be wounding on 5s. So let's roll those dice. So I get 2 wounds, very good. And then it's up to Amy to save those. So, but we'll put those to one side because the Necron Wraiths have an invulnerable save. So it doesn't matter if I shoot them with a bolt gun or with a plasma gun, they're always going to get a 3+ save. We'll get into that when we show the Necron player's saves. We'll do the plasma gun now. So I'm going to shoot that, and I get a 4 to hit, and I don't wound. And because I only have a captain, I don't reroll 1s to wound. I only reroll 1s to hit. So that is a failed wound from that plasma gun. So we're going to pass over to Amy now, who's going to roll her 2 saves on those Necron Wraiths. So just check the Necron Wraith data sheet. They have a 4+ invulnerable save now. It used to be a 3+. That's changed between 8th and 9th edition. So that means that Amy, no matter what happens, those Necron Wraiths will always get a 4+ save. If I hit you with a big gun or a little gun, it doesn't matter. They always get a 4+ save. So you roll those 2 dice for me now. So you got a 2 and a 5, which means you got 1 pass, 1 fail, which means one of those Wraiths has taken a wound. So what you can do is you can take that dice and you can put it next to this back Wraith and just put a 1 on it to show that he has taken a wound. There we go. So that is that's the shooting from those Marines there. We'll wrap up with the shooting from the squad of Tactical Marines up top. And then that will be it for the phase. So could you just measure for me, Amy, if any of those Marines are within 24-inch range of any of your models? So we're going to wrap up now with this squad of Tactical Marines. We have measured. They are within 24-inch range of these Wraiths and these Warriors. So that means I've got a choice of targets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do some more damage to those Wraiths. So everything from this squad is going to fire into this squad of Wraiths. So first we'll do the 4 bolters. Yeah, the sergeant's got a bolter as well. They are within range of the captain, so I'm going to re-roll that 1 to hit. And that means they all hit, which is really good. And then we're going to roll to wound. And I get 2 wounds because the faces are 6s, guys, which now means that Amy has to roll 2 more 4-up saves. She makes 1, fails 1, so that Wraith's taken another wound. So do you want to put another 1 on that dice? Just turn the dice you've got onto a 2. You should be fine. There we go. So now you can see it's taken 2 wounds. And then we've got the heavy bolter from this squad. Now this is very similar to the assault cannon, although it's not quite as strong. It's only got 3 shots. So it has moved though, so hitting on 4s. All 3, so if I hadn't moved I would have hit, but I have moved, so I don't hit. So that heavy bolter has totally whiffed and has not hit. So that is the end of the shooting phase, and more than likely it is going to be the end of the Space Marine turn because I won't be in charge range, or it'll be a long charge, so we'll leave it there. So that is the end of the Space Marine turn. Let's see what the Necrons can do in their turn. So now we're going to go through the Necron turn, and what we're going to try and do, guys, we're going to try and do the whole thing in one go. So that way you'll see the full turn happening in a sort of more organic way. So the first thing that Amy needs to do is her movement phase. So as I did start from one side of the board, work across, let's start with these Necron Warriors. Now they move forward 5 inches. So you want to get 5 inches on your tape measure and then push each one forward 5 inches. There we go. Now the reason that the Necrons want to move closer is because that way they're going to get more shots from their weapons, because the Necrons have rapid fire weapons, which means the closer they are, the more shots they're going to get. If they get within half range, they'll get double shots, which is really good. So those Immortals up there, they also move 5 inches, so you can move them or you can keep them there because they are in quite a good fire position.
Yeah, I think I'll keep them.
So you're going to keep those there. Now these Wraiths, they are nippy little buggers. They move 12 inches. And they're a good combat unit, so you want to throw those forward as far forward as you can go. Yeah, you want to try and start cutting the Space Marines to pieces in close combat. There we go. And then the little Scarabs, they're pretty fast too. They go 10 inches, and you've got a big swarm of 6 of those. So you can sling them up the middle, or you can go for a flanking manoeuvre. Flanking will take longer to get there, but it will be cool.
Yeah, I'll go through here.
Go through there. There you go. So scuttling into the storage area with the crates and the barricades. There we go. So just slide them forward. Don't worry too much. There you go. Let's put those last 2 at the back there. There you go. So Necrons have scuttled forward. Scavs have scuttled forward. Wraiths have ominously floated forwards, and the Warriors have marched forward in rickety lockstep, and the Immortals are staying still to do some damage. So now we're going to go straight on to the shooting phase, because the Necrons have no psychic power, so we're not going to worry about that. And the first thing we'll shoot with is the Warriors. Now, do you want to shoot those into the Terminators? Or they will, they've got good armour, but you might be able to blast through some of them.
Okay.
I'm going to go for the Terminators. So you should be in rapid fire with all of those guns, which means instead of having 1 shot per warrior, it means you're going to have 2 shots per warrior, which means you are going to need 12 dice. So you've got 12 dice there.
I do.
Excellent. Roll them there. So you want to hit on 3s, I believe. So take those misses out, put them to one side, and then pick these dice up. And then you're going to wound me on 4s. Nice. So take out anything that's a 4, 5, or a 6. So those 3s are going to fail, unfortunately. There's another 3 there. And then pass me those 3 dice. Might as well roll your green dice. There we go. So now, Terminators would normally have a 2+ save, but because you've got Necron Gore's Flayers, that means they're AP -1. So Necrons have got AP on all their guns, which is really good. So I go from a 2+ to a 3+. And because of that, I have failed a save, which means one of my Terminators has taken some damage. Now the next, I'll put that wound dice next to him now. So the next thing you want to shoot is your Immortals. Now you're going to want to check, are you within rapid fire range? And let's just check what the range of their guns is. I believe it's 24, but with these days you never know. Things do change all the time. So Immortals, they actually have a 30-inch range. So are you within 15 inches of my Terminators? 15 for the rapid fire. You're definitely in normal range, but are you in extra shot range from your guys in the building? Yeah. Not quite. Not quite. So that means you're only going to get 5 shots. Now, because you have a Necron Lord there, he can put a ability on them called the Lord's Will, which means they will get rerolling 1s to hit. Your guy with the big scythe. So you have 5 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. So no 1s, but a good amount of hits. So just take that 2 out, and then you're going to roll to wound. Now you're strength 5. You've got good guns on these guys, so you're wounding me on 3s. Just the 2. So I'll take these 2 dice, and I will roll them. So I'm going to go from a 2 up. Gore's blasters, I believe, are AP -2, which means I'm going to go from a 2 up to a 4 up. Which means I make 1 and I fail 1, so another one of my Terminators has taken a wound. There we go. Now, I believe that's all the shooting that you have. So, unlike the Space Marines, you are actually quite close, so you're going to be able to make a charge. So we're going to move straight on to the charge phase. This is where we decide who's going to get into close combat. Now, if it was up to me, I'd just send these Wraiths into these guys, because those Warriors are probably not going to want to be on the receiving end of the Terminators in combat.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure up the distance, and then we are going to see how far the charge is. So the range of the charge is, let's measure it now. So it's about 8 inches, which means you only have to get within an inch. So actually you might be a bit closer here. Measure it from the nearest point to the nearest point. Yeah, that's more like it's 6 or 7 inches. I think you only need a 6-inch charge to get into combat there. Yeah, definitely only a 6-inch charge, because you only have to get, you don't have to get base to base. You just have to get close to me within an inch.
Yeah.
So the way you do this is you've declared your charge, And now you roll to see if you make it. Now it's 2d6, 2 dice, and you roll that, and that is the number of inches you go. Exactly what you need. No more, no less, in style. 6 inches. So now what you do is you move those wraiths into combat with my tactical marines. And whilst you're doing that, I am going to find the stats for these wraiths. There we go. There we go. Cano, Peck, Wraiths. Very good. Canoptic, probably.
Did I do that?
Yeah, move them straight in. Yeah, there you go. Bang them all in there. And then just push them base to base, because by the time you've consolidated and piled in and all the other little bits of movement you get, you'll get them all in. So you have 4 attacks with each Wraith. So you're going to need 12 dice. That's very good. Now each one has vicious claws, which means they're actually pretty damn good in combat. So what you're going to want to do is roll to hit, and you hit on 4s. So you're going to need 4s, 5s and 6s to hit. So pick out all your misses, or anything that's a 1, 2 or a 3. And that does look unfortunately like you've missed with 7, so slightly below average. But now you're going to roll to wound, and you wound me on 3s. So take out that 2. Yep, so there's 4 dice in there. Now, the AP on this is -2, which means my tactical marines go from a 3+ save to a 5+ save. And the damage is 2, which means normally my tactical marines would have 2 wounds per guy. But because it's damage 2, you do 2 wounds each time I fail a save. So each one of these I fail, long story short, is a dead marine. And I have failed 2 of them, which means you have killed 2 of my tactical marines here. So we're going to get rid of them there. Now, as that's the only combat, what that means is I will get a chance to fight back. So I have an attack per tactical marine, and then I have 2 attacks from the sergeant, and he also has an Astartes chainsword, so we'll do him separately. Might as well do them all at the same time, actually, because you have an invulnerable save, which means despite the fact that my chainsword is actually AP -1, you don't care, because no matter what, you always have a 4+ save. So simpler sometimes, guys, just if you know the enemy's got an invulnerable save and you know you're going to be hitting it, you can roll all the dice together. A little time-saving trick for you there. So hitting on 3s, I will get to reroll 1s because of the captain. So I have hit with everything, that's pretty good. But now the tricky bit, I need to wound you on 5s. Oh, it's a lucky one. It is a lucky one. I have managed to do 4 wounds to the Wraiths, which means you have to make 4 4+ saves. I'm getting the evil glare now, guys. And you have actually made 2, but one of those Wraiths was already damaged, which means one of your Wraiths has actually died. So there we go. And another one has taken a wound. So we're going to put that on there. So there we are, guys. So that is the end of that phase, and now we will have to see if there's any morale test. Basically, is anyone going to run away? Now, I should have mentioned this in the last phase. The last turn of the game, whether it's combat or shooting, is the morale phase. And despite the fact that these Necron Warriors had taken 4 casualties, they didn't have to take a test because they're leadership 10. I should have explained that. I sort of just rushed over it. So the way that morale works is you take the number of casualties and you roll a dice and you add the 2 numbers together, so 4 plus 6. And if it beats your leadership, then your guys start running away. As it is, because the Necrons have got a leadership of 10, even if I'd rolled a 6 on that dice, they wouldn't have run away. So they're pretty much safe from morale. But the Marines are not immune from morale, I don't believe. Actually, no, they should be okay. The Necrons have only lost 1 on the Wraith, so they're going to be fine. And the Marines only lost 2, and they have a leadership of 8, which means even if I roll a 6 on that dice, the Marines can't run away. And the Necrons only lost 1 model, they won't be able to run away there either. So no one's running away in this battle. Everyone is here to fight to the death. So that is the end of the Necron turn. I hope you can see it was all much more organic. Marines have lost a couple of Marines. We've taken a few wounds, but now we're going to go on to the Marine turn 2. So just to speed things up a little bit, guys, I'm not going to show you the, individual moves every single time. Now, we've done that for the Space Marines once and for the Necrons once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a summary of each phase. So summary for the movement phase, Terminators moved over here, the Captain has moved over there to support his battle brothers in combat, and these Marines have stayed still. Now we're going to roll some dice and see if the Terminators can do some damage to these Necrons. So at the end of the shooting phase, the Terminators fired everything into these warriors and actually got them down to one guy. But then Reanimation protocol kicked in and Amy got 3 5s and 6s, which meant 3 of them got back up. That squad went from being pretty dead to looking actually pretty healthy. Over here with the Scarabs, these guys, these tactical Marines fired into the Scarabs, and I actually killed 2 bases, but then Amy managed to get 4 5s and 6s, which means one of the bases came back. So a little trickier to do reanimation protocols on the multi-wound models, but if you get it off, it is quite satisfying bringing a base of guys back. So that is the shooting phase. Now let's move on to the combat phase, and let's the charge phase. Sorry, easy one for that. He's going to charge in there and help out his buddies, and then we will do the fight, and we'll see who wins. So after the dust had settled, I should have also mentioned that this Terminator unit was going to charge into here. After the dust has settled, the Space Marines were able to, the Captain was able to kill another one of the Wraiths. He didn't reanimate, and then the Wraith gets to fight next because it's the Defender, and it went into the Marines, managed to kill 2 more of them, who in return did no damage to the Wraith. Should have mentioned last turn, again, if you make a mistake, you've got to wear it. When the Wraith charged the Marines, I should have got an extra attack on each guy because of shock assault, but I'm not going to try and take it back. I remembered it for the Captain, and I remembered it for the Terminators, who went into the Necron Warriors and were able to wipe them out. Now, because the Necron Warriors have been wiped out, they cannot use reanimation protocol. So that is the first full Necron unit destroyed by the Terminators, but I feel like they are going to get badly hurt by these Immortals now. So that is the end of the Space Marines turn 2. Let's see what the Necrons can do to respond. They took a heavy blow there, lost a Wraith, lost some Necrons, Warriors. Let's see what they can do going into their turn. So end of the Necron movement phase. The Immortals have come down. Now they get an extra inch of movement thanks to one of the Lord's special abilities. So they move 6 inches and 3 inches down, 3 inches across. And the Lord went to the front because he is going to want to finish some Terminators off in combat, if there's any left after this, what is likely to be very impressive Gauls volley. So on top of that, the Scarabs came around here. They're assaulting the base of the Space Marines. They're part of a second wave. So the dynastic units have come down here. The canoptic units have come this way. It's looking like a good chance for the Necrons to deliver a bit of a hammer blow against these upstart Imperials. Let's see what they can do in their shooting phase. Now those Warriors are done, the Necron shooting phase was quick and effective. Rapid fire Gauls blasters into these Terminators meant that the injured one was killed and another one was killed as well. So very effective there. But we're going to move on to the Necron charge phase now. These Scarabs are probably going to try and nom on that last tactical Marine. Let's see what the Necrons can do in their charge and combat phase. So what a roller coaster of a Necron combat phase. Wish we'd actually filmed it now rather than trying to keep it as a summary. So what happened is the Lord came in over here and was able to kill 2 more Terminators, but in return they were able to do 3 wounds to him, which means he only has 1 wound left. But if he survives, he'll start regrowing wounds thanks to living metal. I mean, I have to check he's still got that. He does. There we go. So, but over here, this is where the main action took place. So the Scarabs came in and absolutely just nommed on that last tactical marine. They have a special rule where if you roll a 6 to hit, it automatically wounds. So that's really good because it means you don't have to try and wound. It just goes straight to the enemy's armor save. And Amy rolled 4 6s alone, and then on top of that, she got loads of other wounds. So that meant that tactical marine was just pulled down by the nibbling little ankle biters. And then the captain actually struck against the Wraith next, and he was able to kill it. But then Amy got to try and reanimate, and she made 3 5s and 6s. So that Wraith went from being on 1 wound to dead to getting back up on full wounds. And in return, it struck back and did 2 wounds to the captain. So that Wraith is the hero that the Necrons absolutely need and deserve. So there we go. So what we're going to do now, again, we'll do some more summary turns, guys. So the point of this is just to give you a feel. We've done a couple of live action turns, and now we're just giving you a feel for how the ebb and flow of the battle can go. So without further ado, let's see what the Marines can do going into their turn. Both sides looking very battered now. So after the Space Marine turn has settled, it was a nice quick summary turn. These Marines moved down here, they bolt gunned into the Scarabs and managed to do some wounds, but Amy actually made fantastically a load of saves, which meant I had to charge in, and between shooting and combat with these Marines, I was able to kill a single base of Scarabs. In return, they nibbled the ankles off a tactical Marine. The Captain versus the Wraith was a slap fight. Unfortunately, no one did any damage to anyone. And then over here, the Necron Wraith, the Necron Lord, was unable to do any damage. He flubbed his rolls, only got 1 hit, and then didn't wound. And in return, the Terminators punched his lights out, which means those Terminators have killed the enemy Lord, which is actually a point for the Space Marines, but it is looking dicey here. I think those Terminators might die to the Immortals, and then I feel like one by one these Space Marines are going to get pulled down by these Canoptic little guys over here. So let's see what happens at the end of that's the end of Space Marine turn. Let's see what the Necrons can do in their turn. So the Necron turn started off, they had a very quick movement phase. Nothing moved whatsoever. They were exactly happy where they were. And instead the Necron Immortals decided to unleash Gore's death into the Terminators, and the Sergeant was left with 1 wound remaining. Absolute hero, surviving a pretty furious blast. The Necron Immortals hit with everything, and I think wounded with nearly everything, and then the Terminators made a valiant amount of 4+ saves, but they still managed to stay around, so they did pretty well. Moving over here, the fight continued. The Captain was unable to put a wound onto the Wraith, and in return he took 2 wounds back. So he, despite the fact he's killed this abomination once already, it has decided to try and take his life, and the Captain now only has 1 wound left, and the Wraith has 2 wounds left. Over here, these guys are sort of just tickling each other now. The Marines trying to step on top of the Scarabs, and the Scarabs trying to nibble the ankles of the Marines. The Marines were able to do 3 wounds to the Scarabs, and the Scarabs in return were able to do a wound back to the tactical Marines. So far, it looks like it's pretty much on a knife edge. This is degraded into an attritional battle, but over here the Necrons definitely seem to be winning. Can this Captain take any of those Immortals down? Let's see what happens going into the Space Marine turn 4. This brave, beautiful son of the Emperor, despite the fact that all his colleagues have been killed, all his comrades have been downed, and he has been severely wounded, charged in against the Immortals. He did manage to wound one in the shooting, but it made it save, and then in combat, unfortunately, he just couldn't quite make any of his blows land, and he struggled to hit and then failed to wound. But in return, those Necrons weren't able to hurt him, so he is tying them up. I think eventually he might get brought down. We'll find out This is Space Marines turn 4. Moving over here, the Necron's Wraith was able, took a wound from the Marine captain, but in return it wrapped him up in its vicious claws and eviscerated him. Last but not least, the Tactical Marines, the last solid unit on the Marine side of the table, were able to bludgeon another Scarab base to death, and in return took no damage. But now that Wraith is freed up, that is going to start doing some hefty things to those Tactical Marines. So it's looking like it's starting to pivot in the favour of the Necrons. Let's see what they can do going into their turn 4. These are nice, quick, rapid-fire turns now, guys. Beauty of playing a smaller game is you can really smash the turns out nice and quickly. Even with recording, this won't have taken Amy and I longer than an hour or so. So over here, the Necron Terminator slap fight continued. He unfortunately again failed to wound. And now that he's not charged and shock assault's worn off, he's not getting extra attacks or anything. He's just stuck there, swinging his big old sword around. In return, again, the Necron Immortals did another wound to the Terminator, but he did make his 2+ save. So he's nice. He's happy in there, but he's not dying. But he's he's not killing anything either. Over here, the Necrons, the Wraith, which we thought was going to be the big game changer, came over here and unfortunately missed with every single one of its attacks. In return, the Tactical Marines were able to stand on a couple more of the Scarabs, doing 2 wounds to one of the bases, but in return they did 2 wounds back, meaning that the 1 wound Marine was pulled down and the heavy bolter guy has taken a wound as well. So it's again, it's grinding down in favour of the Necrons. They love this attritional style warfare, guys. Once the Marines are sort of locked in combat, because you can't shoot when you're in combat, you can fall back, but then you can't do anything if you fall back. So for the Marines here, it's best just to try and sit there, and there's only one thing that Marines can do. They've got to fight their way out, but unfortunately, Astartes by Astartes, brother by brother, they are getting pulled down one by one. Let's see what happens. That was Necron's turn 4. We are going into Space Marines turn 5. It's very simple. We might as well actually just do it live on camera. So let's do some attacks for the Terminator. We'll do the last turn for both sides live on camera. So he's got 3 attacks. He's managed to hit twice. Now, Necron Immortals are toughness 5 now, so they are, even with his +1 strength power sword, he is only wounding them on 4s. Double 6, he's got 2 wounds through finally. Now those Immortals do have a 6+ save. Normally they'd have a 3+, but AP -3 on the power sword means he's got a 6. They've got 6+ saves. So roll those dice in. You want to get a couple of 6s. You didn't get any 6s, but now you get a chance to reanimate. So roll those 2 dice again and see if Eddie can get back up. And another one has got back up. So despite the fact that 2 were slain, one of them, maybe using parts from its dead brother, rebuilt itself, and now there are still 4 Necrons there. You might as well fight back there, Amy. You've got 4 attacks, I believe. We'll just double check Necron Immortals. Oh, they've got 2 attacks each. There you go. So you actually get 8 attacks there. Can you now bring down this last Terminator? You need to take out the 1s and 2s. I can see 2 of them. There you go. Now you're wounding on 4s because you're strength 4 and I'm toughness 4. That is 4 wounds. Oh, this could be it. The Terminator only has 1 wound left, but he does have a 2+ save for the Emperor. Let's see if he can do it. What an absolute hero. So he will live to the end of the game. Absolute legend. But now let's move over to this side of the battlefield. So the Terminator went first. Now it's the Necrons. Then the Immortals went. It's back to the Tactical Marines. Let's see what they can do. They're going to try and finish off. You know what? They're going to try. This battle brother with the heavy bolter is going to try and finish the Necron Wraith in one-on-one mano-a-mano combat, and these 2 are going to try and finish off one of the Scarab bases. So heavy bolter guy is going to swing his big heavy bolter at it. Oh, and he missed. Clearly, the Necron Wraith just went phase shift for a moment and the bolter just slid through it. Moving on to the other, we've got another tactical marine and a sergeant. We'll do the sergeant separately because obviously he's got an Astartes chainsaw. Oh no, he doesn't. He's just got a bolt gun. We'll do them all at the same time. Oh no, they're clearly getting tired. Their ankles are being nibbled. Can they do anything? No, absolutely nothing. And now the Necrons close in for the kill. 4 attacks from the Canoptic Wraith. Hitting on 4s. Oh no, he's done it again. All misses. So now it's going to come down to the Scarab Swarms. Can they do it? You've got 12 attacks from the Scarab Swarms, 4 from each base. Okay.
How many? 12.
12. So now you're hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s, but thanks to their little nippy jaws, any 6s automatically wounds. You got a couple of 6s, so take those out, put them to one side, we'll come back for them later, and take out any 1s, 2s and 3s. Yeah, another one there, perfect. Now for those 4 that are left in the box, you need to roll them again, and you want to get 5s and 6s. No, nothing else. So only the ones that automatically wounded me before are going to count. So let's see what we get. A 5 and a 1. That is going to bring down the heavy bolter marine. Obviously, whilst he was busy fending off the Wraith, he was slain. So there we go, guys. That, I believe, is the end of the Space Marines turn 5. So we are here, the final round of the game. The Necrons have to try and wipe out these Space Marines. I think they are in a very good position anyway, but we shall see. So there's no moving, there's no shooting, there's no charging. It simply comes down to most honourable combat, close combat. Now, just so you guys know, I'm not sure we've mentioned this yet in this sort of beginner's battle rep. If you are the defender, as in it's not your turn, you actually get to go first in combat with one of your units unless the enemy player charge. Now, as there's no charges taking place, it means that I, as a Space Marine player, will get to pick one of my squads to fight first. And I think there is only one hero that can go first. It must be the Terminator Sergeant. So he's got 3 attacks with his power sword. He's hit all 3 times. He is not mucking about today. Right, let's see if he can wound. He has got a wound in. Just the one, because Immortals are toughness 5 and he's strength 5 with his power sword. Amy, you've got to make a 6+ armour save first. You have not. You now must make a 5+ reanimation protocol save, as I've finished all my attacks. And you have not. So, the last blow of the Terminator, he has managed to drag down one of the enemy Immortals, but will they strike him back? You may now pick. You don't have to go them next, but you might as well see if they kill him.
Yeah.
So 6 attacks from the Immortals, hitting on 3s. Really nice that they've gone up to a few extra attacks actually. So take out that 1, and the rest have hit. And now you must wound on 4s.
Oh, what is that?
Oh dear, it's a whiff. Just a single save to be made. Now he has made at this point maybe a dozen 2+ armor saves. Will this final one get through his armor? Let's find out. It's for the Emperor time, and he's made it just absolutely down to the wire, but he has made it. Over here the Marines will get to fight. I'm now going to try and put everything I can into those into the Wraith, because if I kill that, it could get some extra points for me. Let's find out. 3 attacks in total. Here we go. Oh dear, just 1 hit, but it is a wound. Amy, you must make a 5+ save here, or it's going to start getting dicey.
Dicey.
Ah, you've made it. You failed it. That means that Wraith is dead. Now you do get a chance to reanimate. So I believe you'll get to your chance to reanimate. You get 3 chances, and you must make a 5 or 6 on all of these dice. Not quite, almost, so close, but that Wraith has now died, and that could be big for the final score for the end of the game. last but not least, the Scarabs must try and nibble the ankles off these Marines. Now you do have 12 attacks from these Scarabs into these 2 tactical Marines. So let's see if you can do it. 4 wounds to get through, 12 attacks. So take out that 6, because that's already wounded, and take out the 1s, 2s and 3s. There's one more there, there you go. And then last thing you need to do is roll to wound, and that is 5s and 6s, because you're strength 3 and I have toughness 4. So your strength is not as good as my toughness. So the unit can't be wiped out, but I could lose another Marine here. I have taken a wound, but thanks to Tactical Marines going up to an extra wound, I have not lost a full model. So there we go. That is the end of the game, end of the turn, end of the battle for Outpost Delta 5. What we're going to do now, guys, we're going to work out how many victory points each side has won, and then we'll be back with the final score. So we've added the points up. The Necrons were able to kill a full squad of tactical Marines, and they were able to kill a captain, which means they got 10 power level. Divide that by 10 means they got 1 point. Then add in the fact that they killed the captain and got Slay the Warlord, because my captain was my warlord, he was my leader. That meant they got 2 points overall. Then the thing is, they didn't quite get this last Terminator. If they'd just been able to kill him, he definitely made far too many 2+8s, but if they'd just been able to kill him, that could have swung the game in their favour. The Marines, on the other hand, were able to kill the Lord, who was 5 points, and then they were able to kill the Necron Warriors, which I believe was 6 points, and then they were able to kill 6 power level, and then they were able to kill the Canoptic Wraiths. The Canoptic Wraiths, that this last desperate act from these 2 Marines switching target meant that was a full unit wiped out, meant that was another 5 power level. That means 16 power level divided by 10 as per the mission rules is 1.6. Rounding up, that is 2 points, which means the Space Marines got 2 points, and the fact that they killed the enemy Lord means that they had got an additional point, which means the final score is 2 points to the Necrons and 3 points to the Space Marines, meaning it is a very, very narrow win for the Space Marines, almost a draw. And at the end of the day, the final remaining Necron Immortals and little Scarabs teleport away, leaving behind a battered and bloodied Space Marine task force. But the Teleportarium, the experiments that are taking place at Outpost Delta 5 will continue, and maybe the Necrons will have to be back in the future again to try and purge these filthy humans. So guys, that's the end of the battle. As you can see, really close little game, just a single point in it, and it was really, really fun. We're going to wrap the battle up here, and I'm just going to go through a few final sort of lessons and things learned and little bits and bobs, a little bit of final admin for you guys, and we'll go through that now. So I hope everyone really enjoyed that battle report. It was a nice, just quick, simple game. I haven't played a game of 9th edition in what feels like months. I haven't played my Black Templars in a long time, and Amy is very new to 9th edition as well. She's just got together some cool Necron models, just going for things that we like the look of, and it was one of the first games that they've been using. It's their 3rd game in total, and it's their first game of 9th edition, so it was a really good chance for her to sort of start using those Necrons again, which is really good. I'm absolutely sure that we have made tons of mistakes during this battle report. That tends to be the nature of 40k. I don't think there's ever been a perfect battle. I would just say, if you're watching this from a newbie's perspective, the point is don't worry about it too much. At the end of the day, this battle report is more to give you a feel and a flavour for what 40k is and how you can get into it, and that's the most important thing. Just having fun and rolling some dice and chucking some models around. That's really what 40k is all about. That's really what tabletop gaming is all about. And hopefully, as you can see from this battle report, that it doesn't cost a fortune to get into 40k if you don't want it to. You can get the terrain together really easily, and terrain is really, really cool and important. And you can put your armies together relatively cheaply, relatively quickly. This army was entirely painted with contrast paints, and it didn't take us very long at all. And the Black Templars are pretty much a black undercoat and then a load of white paint and stuff for the shoulder pads. So again, doesn't take too long to slap two armies together at all. Like I said earlier in the video, guys, we have kept this battle report deliberately simplified and streamlined because it's just here to give a flavour of what 40k is like. I know with a lot of battle reports out there, and especially with 9th edition in general, it is quite complicated. There's a lot to keep track of. There's things that we just simply didn't include in this battle. Like I said, we didn't include chapter tactics or dynastic traits. We didn't even really use terrain rules. We had a bit of terrain, but if it had come up, we would have said something, but no one shot at each other whilst we were in the terrain, so we didn't worry about it. And we didn't use command points or stratagems, and we didn't use relics or warlord traits. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't use in this game, and that was done on purpose. We just wanted to make sure this was a nice, easy game for both of us to learn 9th edition, and for you guys to get an idea, a clear idea of what happens at each step of the game, setting the battlefield up and picking your mission and rolling through the first few phases. That's what's really important when you're starting to get your head around this mad thing that is tabletop gaming and that is 40k. If this battle report turns out to be quite popular, then I'm sure that we'll do some more, and what we will do is progressively add in more of the special rules and things and bits and bobs and abilities that you can do in game. One of the things I would say is it can be quite difficult when you're watching a full scale battle report, a full 2k points with all the different terrain rules, and there's 4 or 5 different types of terrain on the battlefield, and every turn people are slapping down 4 or 5 stratagems and spending X command points and refunding command points. It can just get a bit much. I've definitely started to find that there's a bit much going on in 40k recently, especially as I'm not playing it as regularly as I once was. And so the point I want to do with this battle report is it is totally possible to strip down, streamline, and just have a game without needing to overcomplicate it. And at the end of the day, the final result won't be that much different, because if both sides are using stripped down, streamlined rules, then both sides are on the same level, hopefully. I hope you guys have enjoyed this battle. We will definitely be doing more. We will not necessarily be doing Necrons versus Space Marines every single time. We'll try and mix up a little bit, but apart from that, hope you've enjoyed it, and of course, we'll see you guys next time.